Welcome, my people. Bienvenidos, mis señores, mis señoras. ¿Cómo están todos aquí? Sábados a las 11 de la mañana. Bienvenido al programa aquí from the neighborhood. Wake up, people. It's Saturday, 11 o'clock. If you're not awake, it's too late because there's so much to the day that you haven't caught up on. And this show, well, this is just good timing because at 11 o'clock, we get to into our different neighborhoods. We get to connect with our people. We get to hear their stories and we get some one-on-one time. So today's going to be one of those episodes where we get to talk with one another, get inside my head, see a different point of life, a different perspective, different ways that we could be living. This is that kind of episode. I'm glad to bring this to you at least once a month. We get this one-on-one time and I get to share with you a little bit of who I am, my own experiences, and how maybe this can help you grow in whatever ways you want to do so. So with that, let me introduce to you a little bit about the program. If you're brand new to the show, si han escuchado este programa por primera vez, tal vez tan curioso, from the neighborhood, del vecindario, ¿de qué quiere hacer ese programa? ¿De qué se trata? Well, this program is about breaking apart the headlines, breaking through the stereotype, the bias, the preconceived notions, hey, this show is about neighborhood. I know about that neighborhood. I've lived there. I've hung out there. I know what's up. Well, maybe you don't. Tal vez usted no conoce el vecindario como usted piensa, porque usted dice, bueno, yo he escuchado ese vecindario por las noticias, por amigos, but that's not the truth. That's not the truth about the neighborhood, because when you get to know who really lives there and what they're doing, then you're connecting. And you might get curious. You might even want to live there. Go visit. Have some food. Make it your new hangout spot, because then you're officially from the neighborhood. And with that, folks, like I mentioned, we've got a lot of different neighborhoods we're covering. Muchos vecindarios, muchas personas que vienen de muchos vecindarios, y nosotros tengamos una tienda donde usted se puede representar. We've got some cool neighborhoods that we've covered, and we've gotten some cool gear. I'm so excited about the new store that's about to come out, so make sure to pick up some of the stuff. Just go to fromtheneighborhood.com, and that is going to be your place so you get gear that you want to wear to represent your neighborhood. And probably what you do, because we've got some stuff for the professionals as well. Y si ustedes están interesados en no solamente apoyar su vecindario y tener una camisa que lo representa, pero quiere estar en el programa, you want to be on the show, well, fromtheneighborhood.com is the place to go so you get to know what this show is about, spread the words to your friends, and then come through and tell me your story. So that's some of the things that we're doing here. We've got an email list that I definitely encourage you guys to jump on, because on that email list, once you subscribe, you'll be getting discounts, passes to some cool stuff, everything that's happening with Latino Mixx and more. So definitely jump on there as well. And as you know, guys, it's not just the folks who are coming onto the show to tell us stories. It's the connections. Because if you're advertising on here with the whole team of Latino Mixx, we've got stuff that's here so you can get your business connected to your community. So there's a lot that's happening here, and I definitely can't wait for us to get started. As you know, we're getting into a show about perspective, el punto de vista. Usted dice, bueno, ya yo tengo mi punto de vista. Yo sé quién yo soy. Yo sé de la manera que yo vivo. I can see things from my own perspective. Well, maybe you want to see things from a different level. Maybe in this episode, you'll be able to see things from a higher ground. Maybe in this episode, you'll get a new perspective and a new way of thinking and never see things the same way again. And it's kind of ironic that I'm going to put on a song from a person who couldn't see, but put out a song about higher ground, which is going to give you the better perspective. So let's go with Stevie Wonder, Higher Ground. Let's do it.
De regreso con Anthony from the Neighborhood.
Y aquí regresamos, señores, con esa canción de Stevie Wonder, Higher Ground. And if you didn't know, Stevie Wonder was an amazing musician. Si usted no lo ha escuchado, yo estoy seguro que he escuchado un tema. You've heard one song, but you probably didn't know of Stevie Wonder. This gentleman here has taught us music is universal. Even without sight, it is connecting people that he can't see, but he connected them with their ears, with their soul, with their energy. So big round of applause for Stevie Wonder. Definitely a musical genius. Loved listening to his music. And I just want to go ahead and go back to something like that, because we need to start setting ourselves up to looking at things from a bigger perspective. O sea, un punto de vista que es más grande que uno mismo, porque muchas veces uno coge la cosa y la pone interna entre uno mismo y solamente ve eso. Y eso no es toda la vida. So we have to kind of look outside of life and how do we play in this entire game of life. So this wonderful episode, this opportunity with you is obviously brought to us by a great sponsor. So I want to go ahead and show them some support for our sponsor. Let's drop that right there. All right, this is for Johnny Quinn. He's from Mortgage Depot. He's a loan officer. So, señores, ustedes tenían preguntas de cómo refinanciar su casa, comprar su casa, preguntas de cualquier cosa que tiene que ver con hipotecas y finanzas de casas. Llama a Johnny Quinn from Mortgage Depot. NMLS number is 133907. El número de teléfono 718-496-5216. Again, that's Johnny Quinn, Mortgage Depot, loan officer. NMLS number 133907. And give him a call at 718-496-5216 for any questions you have regarding refinancing, purchasing your first home equity lines, and more. So let's get back to the program here and let's talk about perspective, el punto de vista. Muchas veces uno va a mirar las cosas y dice, como que ya me sabe algo. Ya yo sé qué me viene de esta conversación, esta experiencia, este lugar que voy a visitar. Is that always the case? Do we always already know what we're about to walk into? I don't think so. If you take things like that, then what's the sense of living if you supposedly already know everything? It's impossible to say that all things are going to be the same. So let's put perspective and dissect it for a little bit. First of all, it's extremely powerful. Perspective is extremely powerful. It's a lens. Imagínate como las lentes que yo tengo aquí puestos. If you guys are watching me right now on video, matter of fact, this is a great episode to watch on video because I'm going to have some visuals for you. But if you're seeing me on video right now, I'm wearing glasses. Imagine wearing glasses that you really can't see too well out of. Your lens, your view on the world is going to be completely different than the person next to you. So let's just look at perspective as a very, very powerful lens in which we look through to see the world. And this is the way the world is going to look to us. So si nosotros estamos mirando el mundo de una manera negativa por estos lentes, siempre va a ser negativo. If you look at the world in a positive way, it's going to be positive. So let's think about that. Our perspective is individual to who we are, but it's formulated in some sort of way that maybe we didn't have something to do with because it was our past experience and it got handed down to us. Maybe it was a belief. Maybe it just was culture. And maybe it's just us. Maybe we've developed some walls around us, or we've put in some certain filters inside our own lenses to change our perspective, to change our point of view. And sometimes when we look at a situation or we look at something different or from a different perspective, for example, let's just say two people have an accident. Something happened. Now, you saw it from across the street and someone saw it from the other side of the street. You both would have two pretty distinct stories. And you're going to remember some details and other people won't. And this is what happens. When you change the way you think, cuando usted cambia la manera de pensar, usted pone a ver cosas que no vio la vez anterior, right? Once you change that mode of thinking, you might pick up on stuff that you didn't see before. You might realize that some of what you were looking at was actually an illusion. Something that threw you off completely. Something where you would say, wow, I had a limited understanding of what was reality, what was really going on. Have you ever had a situation where you say, yeah, I went through this and I went through that, and while you're in it, you see no solution. 2 or 3 years later down the road, 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 minutes, you have a chance to take a deep breath. And you look back and say, wow, there was something I could do about that. There was something that I could have changed, or a different way I could have responded that would have changed the outcome. And that, sometimes we say it's something magical, something mystical, something where we saw a sign and we said to ourselves, oh my gosh, I saw the sign, it opened up my eyes and now I know how to approach something. But sometimes it's not that obvious. Sometimes you have to look within yourself and say, what kind of glasses am I wearing when I go into this situation? Le doy un ejemplo. Usted entra en una situación, ya sabe que llegó tarde a su casa o a recoger su niño y se aprieta. Se pone tenso porque ya piensa que va a entrar en una situación de problemas. Right? You walk in late to work, you're late to pick up your child, you're tense. You're saying to yourself, you know what? I'm going to find myself into a problem. But what if you prepared yourself for just simply hearing the other person out without trying to combat it? And just recognize, hey, I was late, and that's all there is. Not that you don't care, but you can't necessarily go back and change time. So try to look out there for a different thing. try to go ahead and see the sign. Try to make that change the lens you're wearing and hopefully open up your eyes. And I'm going to go to a quick break with that song here, which is a classic here. It's the group that everybody was listening to back in the day, Ace of Base, with their song, The Sign. Let's go.
De regreso con Anthony from the Neighborhood.
Espero que vieron el señal. I hope you guys saw the sign, or if not, at least you heard the song and it reminded you back at a different point in time when you were jumping around and, wearing your favorite outfit, because this was the kind of song that just made you feel good. So, señores, estamos hablando de punto de vista. We're talking about perspective and just recognizing the fact that we may be looking at things from a different kind of lens, or a lens that we weren't necessarily born with. Maybe we were just adapting to, right? It could have been something that was a trend and just got stuck with us. It's like you have that friend that you're asking them, why are you still wearing that? That's out of style, right? Well, they got stuck with the trend. So maybe the perspective could be something like that, where you just got simply stuck with it. So we're hoping you guys see the sign, and you're hoping we can open you up to a new light so you guys can see maybe there's a way that I can adoptar un nuevo punto de vista. So, ¿cómo uno puede llegar a ese nivel? Es identificando donde uno está ahora mismo, right? Identifying where you are in your current perspective will help you to adopt a new perspective. So first thing that you want to do is just kind of understand, how am I looking at things right now? Like, am I looking at it under a certain assumption? So this program here is all about debunking what is to be from a certain neighborhood. The story that's being told about certain neighborhoods may not be the actual way that you live. So we bring on guests and we interview them about that. But what about if you have been looking at life in general? Forget neighborhoods, but just life, work, your friendships. What if you're looking at it in a certain way? Do you have assumptions? Do you have a bias or a preconception about the way things ought to be? Maybe things don't need to be the way that you seek them to be. So the next step, I would say, is start seeking some alternatives. So si usted no está muy confort con lo que tiene enfrente, no está sintiéndose cómodo con eso, right? You're not in comfort with it. Start looking at an alternative. Start looking at, what if I change the story around a little bit? What if I change the characters? What if there's a double meaning, right? We all know those double meaning jokes with our friends, and we're like, we know what you're trying to say. But what if there's a double meaning to certain points of life where the lesson wasn't that obvious? So start looking at alternative perspectives, because once you found out yours, or what you had in a particular situation, now find out the alternative. What's a different viewpoint? The example of someone being across the street, same accident on the corner, but you being somewhere else, they had a different perspective. How do they see things? How do you come off to somebody, maybe when you speak to them? So start looking for these alternatives. And then you want to listen. Quieren escuchar. Tienen que ser bien atento en escuchando, porque cuando uno escucha, uno aprende mucho más que cuando uno habla. In past episodes, I've probably mentioned this before, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you use them that way. So if you listen carefully to yourself and to those around you and to the situation as a whole, you may just pick up a different perspective. And it might just be a little easier to see the other point of view, meaning your own, right? It could be your new one, and give that a little bit of light. Not just what somebody else is saying, but your own perspective and what they had to say. Because inside, you're talking to yourself. So give yourself some time to listen, and don't worry, without judgment, without any defense, just listen and see, is there an alternative? Basically, go on a discovery. Once you've done that and you've listened to what you've had to hear, right, from other people, from yourself, reflect on that. Reflect on it and see, did I learn something from it? Is there something I can adopt? Is there a situation I probably could have handled differently? What is the new insight? ¿Qué aprendiste de eso? Ya cuando vas reflexionando en lo que acabaste de escuchar, tu propia conciencia, tus vecinos, reflexionas para que lo pueda adoptar. And keep an open mind. Things don't have to be a certain way. You don't always have to win every fight. You don't always have to be the one to say, this is the way you do it. I'm right, you're wrong. I mean, folks, you're not betting your life here, right? Nosotros no estamos apostando la vida aquí. Nosotros estamos aquí para aprender de la vida. So, con estas 5 o 6 cositas que le mencioné, yo estoy seguro que hoy, usted puede decir, hoy yo aprendí, right? Today I learned. So I'm pretty sure that we're going to get lessons out of life from every single situation, but you have to kind of take a chance to learn so that today you can say, you know what? I learned something. I learned something very valuable and I'm going to adopt it. I'm going to apply a change to my life. And, it's like you got to go back to being a child. Regresas a ese punto que tú eres un adolescente. Porque son los adolescentes que están yendo a la escuela todos los días, saliendo de la escuela diciendo, mami, hoy aprendí. So these adolescents, the child is the one that's going to school every day, coming out of school and saying, you know what, mom, today I learned. Today I learned something. And with that, folks, I'm going to go to a quick break here with the song from a group, salsa group. It's called The Adolescentes with their jam, Hoy Aprendí. Let's go.
De regreso con Anthony from the Neighborhood.
Aquí estamos, señores, de regreso en el programa Y Hoy Aprendí. And that was the song I just played here from Adolescentes. If you guys have been listening to salsa, you have probably played that hundreds of times. I know I was jamming to that. I think it was all throughout junior high school, somewhere around there. The Adolescentes. Hoy Aprendí, which is Today I Learned. So I hope I'm doing that with you guys today. I hope I'm giving you guys a brand new perspective or a way to reaching a brand new perspective, because we all know we need that. It kind of gets a little tired having to see things through the same person or through the same personality, right? You may have the same sort of voice going on in your mind over and over again about a topic, and you're wondering, when's this ever going to change? Why do I keep feeling this way about a certain people or a certain situation? So why fall vulnerable to that? I mean, it's like when someone says, you're pushing my buttons. Well, it's because you've become predictable. Maybe you want to start assembling yourself some new tools so that they can't even find the buttons. It's that person that's unbreakable. Esa persona donde no le pueden llegar, que dicen, ¿cómo es que yo le puedo dar a ese botón para poner esa persona brava o hacerlo feliz? Si no te encuentran los botones, no saben quién tú eres. Te hacen más misterioso. And some people, quite honestly, they like mysterious people, right? Maybe this is a good thing for you. So for your love life, they might find that interesting and say, oh, wow, I never knew that about my husband or my wife. And this sparks a new visualization, a new perspective of who you are to that other person. You never know. So perspective is not always a bad thing. We're not saying here, hey, change the way you are, stop being who you are. No, it's just find ways to enhance it. Find ways to welcome more of who you are. It's as if we were using just say 10% of our brain, but we open this up to an entire collection of colors, and then we just put it on display. I mean, it's overwhelming to believe that, this person can be so versatile. Well, yes. If we're going and doing the same thing every single day, we're subject to get bored. And we all know boredom can lead to some pretty nasty things. So let's not get bored. Let's not get bored with ourselves. Let's love ourselves. And let's make ourselves interesting by looking at things a little bit differently. And just play with the imagination. Just imagine. Imagine yourself. And I've got a lot of things that are going to make you imagine. As a matter of fact, if you guys haven't turned this on yet and you haven't started watching the video, you have to. This program is not just a program where we're going to have audio and no video. Guys, this is a classroom. It's a classroom about life. When you're hearing it from somebody else's perspective, you're hearing it from my perspective, you're getting the visuals. Guys, I'm making a show here that's here to connect with people. I'm making a show that's here to connect with you on levels that I know can get you going, because if I could get all senses, I'd reach across and touch you, but I can't. I'll show you a dish and hope you can smell it, but I can't. So while I got your ears, while I got your eyes, I'm going to take full advantage of that. So if you guys can get online and check us out on this video, you're going to absolutely love the visuals. But for now, I guess you're just going to have to imagine. So I don't know, maybe you can imagine a dragon. But I can tell you one thing, I bet my life you're going to love this. So I'm going to go to a quick break here with Imagine Dragons, I Bet My Life.
De regreso con Anthony from the Neighborhood.
Yes, we're back, folks, and we're talking about perspective, el punto de vista de cómo está viendo la vida. We're talking about the perspective that you have in your life, and we've talked about ways to recognize it, to adopt new ones. There's been a lot. And I've been talking about trying to get it in ways that are beyond the voice, beyond me just talking to you. I'm trying to get this across in, I don't know how many ways I could, but I do know I can get you visual. Nosotros tenemos video aquí. Ustedes están más invitados para verlo en los canales de YouTube para que puedan ver lo que les estoy demostrando, lo que les voy a demostrar. I'm going to show you something soon. So I want you guys to jump on YouTube and check us out because our brains are a lot more powerful than we believe. A lot of the times we think that whatever we're being given has to be broken down to something so simple because our brains can't figure it out. And I go through this struggle too. When I work with my team, sometimes with my own family, I go through the struggles where I say, I've got to break this down to something really simple. And you know what? You're actually causing a lot more harm to that other person. For starters, they might start feeling like they're lesser than you because you're dissecting something for them. Meanwhile, it's just yourself having an insecurity about delivering a certain message and about the result. And you just want to have absolutely assuredness or be absolutely assured that it's going to work out. Well, maybe that's not the case. Maybe in the error of something, you discover something new. Plenty of inventions were discovered that way. But you might just be doing some harm because you're also not allowing the other person to be creative themselves. You're not letting them exercise that part of the brain. So sometimes you have to let go of the leash and let them run wild and see what can the brain do. So I've got a TV screen right over here to the side, and I pulled up a website from livescience.com, and I'm just going to walk right over there. So permit me 1 second while I go and show you something. Our brains right here, our brains are a code cracking device. If you guys are looking right now on the screen, you'll see a bunch of gibberish, but you may have not noticed that immediately. So if you were to read this, it's in English. Está en inglés lo que tengo aquí en la pantalla, pero si ustedes lo lean, ustedes lo van a leer como si fuera palabras normales. Pero si se dan cuenta y lo miran más cerca, todas las palabras están mal escritas. Toditas. Toditas están mal escritas. Lo que tiene sí es la primera letra en su lugar apropiado y la última. So all the words are misspelled, or actually 99% of them, I should say. I found one that was correct. But the first letter and the last letter of the word are in the right place. So this whole thing says, for example, it doesn't matter what order the letters in the word appear. The only important thing is that the first and last letter are in the right place. The rest can be a total mess and you can still read it without a problem. Look at that carefully, folks. So if you guys haven't seen this episode on video, replay it again because this will change your perspective. Right here, you're going to see. Similarly, the next one has numbers, by the way. The next sentence has numbers. So aquí tenemos números y letras y como quiera la podemos leer. Similarly, your mind is reading this automatically without even thinking about it. Señores, aquí la palabra it, I-T, the word it, is actually 17. And I read it as it. If you look at everything else, the word thinking starts with the number 7 and has 2 number 1s in it. And I still read it as thinking. So folks, our mind is a code cracking machine. That's why it's so important for you to let folks use their imagination. Let them spread out. Let them try to figure something out on their own. So yeah, we want everything to be correct, but that's not always going to be the case. We have to let it fly. And I'm going to show you some other cool stuff here that I popped up. So just keep your eye on the screen real quick, and you'll be able to see something else that I was able to find that was interesting to me because there's these shapes like this here, which seem impossible, but these shapes exist on paper. At first you look at it, you think it's 3D, you think it's the letter E, but these shapes exist on paper. And even more so, you'll find some other more interesting shapes like this one, where now this shape looks 3-dimensional and it's not. It's actually drawn on a flat piece of paper. You fold it in half. It looks like there's a staircase going from inside the paper, through the paper, and up into the paper. Señores, eso es un dibujo cualquiera. But these are the illusions. This is what perspective does to you when you're just looking at something from one side, from one angle. Here we simply drew something, folded the piece of paper, and what I suggest for you guys to do is go on YouTube or anything else after the show and start Googling optical illusions and see how your brain is easily fooled. Because while we're code cracking machines, we're also substituting things. As you saw with the letters, things are missing, we try to fill in the gaps. So let me go back to my desk real quick so we can kind of illustrate this for a second. When we talk about filling in the gaps, sometimes you run into a situation where you have an argument or a conversation with somebody, and you make the assumption of what the other person's thinking without completely hearing the argument. Or you make the assumption that the person is a certain way without having let them a chance to be who they really wanted to be. So we start substituting things. We start assuming, oh, this is why she did that. Oh, you're trying to say this about me. Is that what you think about me? And that's not the case. Simply because we're in a rush to do one of two things. And this is where perspective really grounds itself. Many times we're in a rush to protect ourselves. It's survival. So perspective is a good thing, such as having fear. You are afraid of something, you protect yourself. So you put up a defense. So you automatically shield yourself, block them off, stonewall them, ghost them, whatever your words are, but you can do things like that. Or you jump right at them, you attack. So you're either running from it, shielding yourself, or you're fighting against it. But what if you just left it the way it was? Just let it go. Just let it express itself. Let it lay itself out on the table. See all the cards of the deck, and then take a position. Then decide to do something about it. Then decide to respond. And you would stop your brain from simply substituting or jumping to conclusions and then provide an adequate response. And you're not expected to get it right. This is not a question about getting it right or getting it wrong. It's just a question of, are you looking at things from a different perspective? Are you using your mind, or are you simply reacting and defaulting? Remember, perspective is something that you create. It's something that you want to go ahead and use as a superpower. And I want to show you a couple other ones here on the screen that are going to really twist your mind, because these are ones you see every single day. We're going to jump over here, not to somebody who's sponsoring the show, but it's a logo you see all the time. So follow me right over here. Check out this logo right on this side here. Baskin-Robbins, folks. You see it every day. It's just ice cream. But did you know there's something actually in there? There's a message in there. Does everybody know how many flavors is at Baskin-Robbins? 31 flavors. There's a 3 on the B and a 1 with the R. 31. So something you wouldn't really think of, right? Now I'm going to show you another logo you're going to see, that is, if you guys are any baseball fans that are out there, you guys are going to check this one out. What's that team right there? That's the Brewers, right? Milwaukee Brewers. Now, Milwaukee Brewers, the two initials of the two words, the M makes this part of the glove, and the B is right here with the circle formed by the baseball. That's the Milwaukee Brewers. So a lot of folks don't see that, but it's a logo that's there every single day. And again, it's giving an opportunity to perspective. How many of you guys got TVs at home? You guys probably have an LG television. And if you look at the logo here for LG, this little face here, it's not just a face, it's actually an L, it's a G, but the face is actually winking at you. And that's LG. Life's good. And it's expressing that with that same logo. And I got to think one more for you guys that are here. So if you guys actually I got two more. If you guys like chocolate, here's Toblerone. And if you can see the bear, then you're looking at things from a different perspective. Check out the bear right in the mountain. You see the silhouette? It's a bear right there. You'll never see this chocolate the same way again. The bear is in the mountain. You think it's just the light, the way it's hitting it. No, that's a bear. That's a silhouette of a bear. And the last one, if you guys are like me and you're driving probably one of the most reliable cars that are out there on the road today, you haven't seen this one yet, and you'll never see this one the same way again. I'm just going to move this mouse right over here. Toyota. If you look at Toyota, this symbol actually says Toyota. The little part right here at the top and this circle make a T. This full circle makes the O. This part of it and this circle again that was used for the T now makes a Y. The full circle again makes the O. This little part at the top and this here makes the T once again. And how do we get an A? Well, these two intersect and come up with a line right here, right across, you've got an A. Toyota, its entire word is in the symbol of the car. So folks, you'll never see things again. This is why perspective is so important. This is why we have to look at things from a different perspective, because you're never going to see things again the same way. I mean, like literally, I hope what I did accomplish was breaking your mind open, getting you a new way to see, a new way to, I don't know, to walk through life, a new way to fly. If I broke your mind, I probably broke your wings, and you're learning how to fly now. So with that, folks, I'm going to go to a quick classic here with Mr. Broken Wings. Let's go.
De regreso con Anthony from the Neighborhood.
Bueno, señores, ya le estaba dando con mucha música clásica, a lot of the classics from back in the 80s. I mean, to be honest with you, there's not a better time that I feel that you could have grown up and seen the world in so many different perspectives, because it was just a different time. The 80s was something where we have like MTV coming out, music videos was like the start of it. And these kind of songs led to so much more than just the sound. And that's why I wanted to get you guys this opportunity to have video. We've been having video on this program for quite some time, but I've started to incorporate it more and more, where you want to know who's the face, or what is he showing me? ¿Qué es lo que me está mostrando? ¿Quién es la cara de esa voz? And that's why we've had folks like Don Frog Cisco, who came onto the program for Earth Day. That's why we've had folks who've come on here that you thought were from a different country, a Latin American country, because they had an immigrant story, just like the common story we hear in our households or among our friends. Here at Latino Mixx, when you have a Latino, you think, oh, yes, only Latinos come here a certain way. But no, they came from other countries like Israel, India, Venezuela, which is, okay, that's a story I can relate to, but what about the other two? And this is what this program is all about, is changing your perspective. And sometimes people think, well, you know what? My perception, the way I look at things, my perspective on things, it doesn't matter. Señores, ustedes pueden crear una nueva realidad cambiando su punto de vista. Focus on this perspective thing as almost like a way of manifesting. So, for example, if you decide, and I think you may remember from a previous episode, when I dissect the word decide, it's to kill off all other options, right? Just like homicide, right? You're going to kill it off and you're going to choose one path. Once you decide that this is going to be the way you're going to look at things, you might have already done it unconsciously, but once you decide consciously that this is the way I'm going to look at something, things are going to start to change for you. A lot of it. Because there's plenty of folks who their life has been set up, maybe purposely or not, but they've set it up so that they can have you see things the way they want you to see it. And you haven't thought for yourself, how do you feel and how could you be a part of it? You haven't really played the full game. But when you start playing it and you start realizing that, wait a second, I have a part to write into this story just by changing my point of view. Your whole story will change. So a lot of times folks say, well, that's manifestation. I go, yeah, it's kind of like manifestation, but you know what? If you're looking at something the wrong way, you're obviously going to have the wrong outcome. It's like, I don't know, say, for example, looking at a cup and using it in the wrong direction, you're going to spill it all over yourself. Pretty simple, right? Well, the same thing with life. So if we're believing that, hey, you know what, we're capable in achieving certain goals is because we have a certain outlook related to those goals. So if your perspective on certain things is a positive perspective, it's a perspective about success, and it's a perspective that helps you visualize that you already won the game, you already made the shot, you're likely going to make the shot because you're driving your energy towards it. So all it takes is going through some of the steps I mentioned before, listening carefully, right? Identifying these things in order for you to change. That's the way it's going to happen, because you can't just get stuck onto the way like, this is my way of being, right? Usted no se puede encoger que esta es mi forma de ser, así yo nací, ese soy quien yo soy. Ustedes siempre están cambiando. That is the superpower of the human being. We can adapt. We don't have to live in a certain climate. We don't have to live in a certain place. We don't have to live under certain conditions. We have those of us who live in the desert, who live under ice, who live in the rainforest, who live anywhere in cities, countries, farms. There's humans everywhere. I believe there's about 7 billion of us. And we've adapted to geography, to climate. So in the mind, a place that we create, imagine how much further we can continue to adapt and how many more things we can allow. It's hard. It is very, very hard. But nobody is stuck in the way that they are. They're not just going to be that one thing and nothing else. Eso ahí no es solamente tu forma de ser. It's not. And I want to go to a quick break here because I think I got a few more minutes. I want to drop you another tip. But before that, I want to thank my sponsor one more time because my sponsor here has allowed me to bring on such a great episode to you folks. So let me drop that cue real quick. Yes, and my sponsor is Johnny Quinn, the loan officer at Mortgage Depot. If you guys got questions on refinancing your home, purchasing your new home, reach out to him. NMLS number 133907, Johnny Quinn, Mortgage Depot. Call him 718-496-5216, 718-496-5216. Ya ustedes saben, señores, si tienen preguntas sobre su hipoteca para refinanciar, compra de su casa, llámalo. Johnny Quinn, habla español. En Mortgage Depot, ya lo puede localizar al 718-496-5216, 718-496-5216. And with that, folks, I'm going to go to a quick break here because you are not who you think you are. That is not just the way you are. But, some people do believe it. So I'm going to play this jam for them. Ala Hazard, mi forma de ser. Let's go.
De regreso con Anthony from the Neighborhood.
Señores, qué pena que le tuve que cortar la canción. But folks, I only get an hour here. I had to cut the song. I know it's a great jam. So a lot of my Dominican brothers are going to be like, yo, man, that's the jam. Listen, I have only an hour, guys. And I want to get this part in here, folks, because ese puede ser tu forma de ser. That could be your way of being. And maybe you take the view on like, you know what? No one's going to change me because this is what I like. This is what I want to do. That's okay. That's okay. We're just asking you to be more conscious and to recognize. So I'm going to go through these things real quick. Number one, take some responsibility for yourself. Have compassion with others. Listen to them. Have a willingness to see things differently. Activate that pause button. Stop for a second. Breathe. Listen. Take a time just to see what's around you. And find support. Find support and ask people questions. You're not here to figure it out all by yourself. And look for those things that repeat themselves. They're called patterns. Si se repite, es algo que usted tiene que atender. Maybe this is something you continuously do. And even as you get older, the problems, once they seem a certain way, you either start fighting it or you start running away from it, but you don't let it be as it is. Remember, slow down for a second. And that, folks, is all I want to leave you with here because I'm pretty much out of my hour. But listen, for all of this, you got to be strong. You got to be bold. You got to be wiser. And I don't want you guys to give up. So I'm going to end the show with that. So let's go with Desiree. You got to be.